Welcome to another episode of College Basketball Addiction. Thank you guys so much for the 100 subscribers already. This channel is off and running. Appreciate all the viewership too, as I think we've had 5 of our first 7 videos reach 1,000 or more views. So thank you guys for watching. Please continue to like and subscribe and comment in the comment section what videos you'd like to see from here on out. Today's episode is talking about Dan Hurley and his antics on the sideline. Am I pro or against Dan Hurley? Well, I played for a coach that was a West Point grad. Love my former head coach to death, all-time wins leader in school history. So that should tell you right there I'm pro who Dan Hurley is. Dan Hurley has made the rounds again in media for what he said to an official during UConn's win against Butler. Don't you big time me. I'm the best coach in the effing sport. And the media has had a field day with it. UConn's 12-8. They're sliding this year after winning back-to-back national titles, and Dan Hurley is the one that's just the common denominator after every one of these losses. And so let's peel this back some in this episode. All right, let's peel this back some. Look, I think what's hurting Dan Hurley is the fact that their first loss of the year for UConn, Dan Hurley was teed up in a tie ball game that lost UConn the game, because not only did UConn go on to lose that game, but then UConn ended up losing 3 in a row in 3 days. So the narrative that he needs to control himself, the way he talks to officials, is he like that? Yes. That's just who he is. But when it happens, when the first time of this happens during the year is it makes your team lose a game, and then the next day you lose a game, and the next day you lose a game, and you go from top 10 to unranked in 3 days, everything becomes more magnified. But this is the Dan Hurley that has always been around. This is how Dan Hurley was right when his tenure started at UConn, when he wasn't winning that much and people said he was on the hot seat. The way he carried himself, this was Dan Hurley at Rhode Island. This was Dan Hurley at Wagner. This was Dan Hurley coaching high school ball. This was Dan Hurley playing ball, because you know what his name is? It is Hurley. This is what Bobby Hurley was like playing for Duke. This is what Bobby Hurley is like coaching at Arizona State. And you know what those two guys have in common? Back-to-back national champions. Only 3 teams have ever done it. 2 of those teams have had Hurleys on them. So I am a Hurley fan. I am a Duke fan, like I've said multiple times on this show, but I am a Hurley fan, a Dan Hurley fan, because I like the way he carries himself as a competitor. Is it too much sometimes? Yes, but I'm not going to criticize a coach to reel it in on certain times when that is who he is. Look at Dan Quinn this past weekend for the Washington Commanders. The Commanders they scored a touchdown to make it 14-12. He went for 2, and then people on social media was like, what is he doing? He's going for 2 way too early. Look, you can't tell a guy that goes for it on every 4th down and the one time he brings the punt team out is a fake punt that it's too early to be aggressive. That's just what he knows. Dan Hurley only knows one speed as well when it comes to coaching, and that is to show pure passion 100% of the time. Even in spots that shouldn't have it, that's just who he is. Look at Tom Izzo a few years ago with Michigan State. He grabbed a kid when they were going to halftime. People did not like it outside of that bubble of Michigan State basketball. Draymond Green tweeted in support of Tom Izzo. Former players tweeted in support, and current players, including the player that he grabbed, was like, hey, I love my coach. It's just who he is. People have to understand things like locker room's a special place, and those coaches are not there to please the media. They're not there to please me. They're not there to please you. They are there to win ball games and not lose that locker room and be for their players. And you can tell by the way Dan Hurley's players respond to him that that is a tight-knit group. So I have a quote. I love sports movies and I love cross-sport analogies. And for Dan Hurley in particular, one quote that comes up for me for this year is Bull Durham. Great movie, one of my favorite movies of all time. But it's when Crash Davis talks to Calvin LaLoosh, the hot young prospect, and basically he's telling him like how to deal with media. And it was talking about shower shoes. Your shower shoes have fungus on them. You'll never make it to the bigs with fungus on your shoes. Think classy, you'll be classy. If you win 20 in the show, you can let the fungus grow back and the media will call you colorful. But for right now, you're a slob. What do I mean by that? Why did I pull that quote in particular? Because when Dan Hurley's winning back-to-back national championships during that run and he's acting the way that he acts, he has personality, he has charisma, he has swagger, he has aura, he has all of it. But once UConn shows that they're humans and they're losing and Dan Hurley's acting like this, he is a slob because they're not winning games that UConn used to win the last couple of years. They're 12-8. The head coach is acting like he is on the sidelines. And now the narrative is he's a crybaby. He needs to get it together. He's costing UConn games. One game he did. The first game in Maui. But besides that, Dan Hurley is who he is. And the media is going to love him when he's winning, and the media is going to hate him when he's losing. The moral of the story and the moral of this video, too, is Dan Hurley is going to continue to be himself, as he should, because he has national championships, 2 back-to-back national championships, and he will continue to be who he is, whether they win every game or lose every game. And so I am pro Dan Hurley. I want to know your thoughts in the comments section of what you think about Dan Hurley's antics. And I appreciate you guys watching this episode of College Basketball Addiction. And I'll see you guys next time.